Hey everybody, what's up? Hope you're having a great Friday. Now, look, if you're just tuning in, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. This is the #1 podcast for real estate agents. But look, if you don't sell real estate, not a problem. We talk about entrepreneurship through the lens of an agent. The stuff that we talk about on the show can help you build your business, whatever you do, whether you're a painter, pie maker, plumber, whatever. Now, look, today's guest. This is sometimes I'll do two people. Most of the time when I have, I'll do two partners. I'll do a husband and wife team. Now, these guys are two brothers. Now, they have a very interesting story. The main reason why they're interesting is these guys are ultra pedigreed. Okay, when I say ultra pedigreed, I mean one guy went to Vanderbilt Law School, then went into real estate. The other guy went to Yale undergrad and then Harvard Business School. These guys are super smart. They could have done anything. Now, we dig into the insights they had that led them into real estate. And by the way, they're doing $220 million. So we talk about, why they would come from the hardest institutions to get in and migrate into the easiest institution to get into, real estate, and talk about what they're doing, what's working for them. And some of those things are, they came at this not as a transactional type business, but they came in to be and act as a true advisor to their clients. Right? Everybody's got a financial advisor, a legal advisor, a tax advisor. But when it comes to your most expensive asset, real estate, people don't view their realtor as a true advisor and go and get a yearly checkup. So they came at this business like that. They see every client of theirs as a lifetime relationship. So we talk about relationships. We talk about trust. We dig into a lot of stuff. Now, the nuggets that you're going to hear on this one, and there are nuggets, but it is more of the nuggets like I just talked about, right? How to build your list, view your clients as an asset. We talk about, LTV, lifetime value. And in the tech world, you make a sale to someone and people know what the lifetime value of a customer is. Now with real estate, especially once you add on that you can get referrals from these folks, calculating lifetime value is more than just you sell them a condo, they move up to a single family home, they hit it big, they buy a $3 million house, and then they go buy a couple vacation houses, right? It's more than that. So and I think that too many times people they see relationship as a transactional business. And again, if you've been listening to the show for a while, my situation, in 05, yeah, 05, 06, whatever. I bought my house. I spent $1 million for it. But guess what? The agent that sold it to me, I never heard from the guy again. And, I've gone on to buy another, 15, 18 houses since then. So I hope you're going to like it. I think you are. I certainly had a good time with these guys. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first $1 million in real estate. Yeah. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
So I want to talk about a thing that I just found out, an opportunity that I discovered in radio. It's in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I did a little research for a guy who was interested in radio, and I put together a campaign. He's not going to pull the trigger right now. So if you're in Cheyenne, I got to tell you, man, I found the deal of the nation, I think. I found a talk station. I can get you on Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, endorsements. Literally, I can buy radio for about $20 a spot there. The average sale is about $250 in the market. We did the math. Literally, 4 deals a year would pay for your full year radio campaign. There's a lot of cash to be had, low hanging fruit if you're in Cheyenne. And listen, if you're in Cheyenne, reach out to me. please do not reach out to me if you're in some other city and go, oh, how much does it cost? It doesn't work like that. This is a fluke one-off deal. So that's it. Hey, Twitter handle @SuperAgentsLive. I'd love to meet you on Twitterland. Hashtag for the show is Unpack That Idea. Please, you don't want to miss future episodes like this. Go to the website. Download my free book. Join the free membership. That stuff's not going to be free forever. And I'd love to see you on my list. All right. Oh, and by the way, I think I said it last time, but we just did a distribution deal with Inman. So we are building out, there are show notes on all the episodes, but go look for me on Inman. We're writing very long form articles that I think you might find of value. All right, let's get to it. Today on the show, man, today's guests, these guys, two brothers, man. I'm not going to say their names yet. Two brothers have their business. They're in D.C., they're also are in Northern Virginia and Maryland, and I want you guys to remember that. These guys are powerhouses. Last year, they had a team of about 30, so a mega team. They did 260 deals, which is a lot, but their volume, $221 million. Unbelievable amount. All right, so I'm thrilled to welcome Hans and Steve Wydler. Hey, guys, thanks for taking the time out.
Oh, thanks
for having us.
Sure. All right. So as we go, I will. It's sometimes tough having two of you guys on there, and I ask a question nobody knows who to answer. I'm going to let it go organic for a while, and if you guys are stepping over one another, I'll start to moderate that. But moving forward, so this is for you, Hans, because I know you're in your car. Tell us a little about who you guys are. I mean, you're two brothers. I'm sure you're competitive, and we're going to get to all that. But how are you guys working together? But wait, hold on. I don't want to ask that question. Hans, tell us about you, and then Steve will move to you.
Let's see. Well, I actually got into real estate sort of through the back door probably about 15 years ago. I was trying to buy some investment property in the city, and I was talking to a lot of real estate agents, and I was really having a tough time finding folks that were really adding value until I met a couple of really top-notch real estate agents. I ended up buying an investment property through one of them, but in that process, I realized that there's a real opportunity for me and my brother to get into this business and really try to set up approach the business a little bit differently than what we were seeing in the late 90s, and really more, I would say, professionally or almost sort of consultative in our approach. And it worked out really well. We've been growing, pretty much every year since we started, and are having a nice, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything, but pretty good run.
Got it. Okay, cool. Steve, what about you?
So, just to tag on to what Hans said, I was actually an attorney prior to getting into real estate, and my brother had told me that he was getting his real estate license. I didn't really focus on it until he sent me a letter that he sent to all his friends and former colleagues that he was officially a residential real estate agent. My brother's a modest guy, but I will say he does have he went to Yale and Harvard Business School, Yale undergrad, and I frankly was shocked that someone with that pedigree would sell houses for a living. And I did what any good brother would do at that point, and I made fun of him mercilessly.
Of course.
It took me about a year to realize that he actually had some keen insight into the opportunities in this space, because at that time, in the early 2000s, the business was really undergoing a major transformation. And, like I said, it took me a year, but I made the switch in 2002 and have never looked back since.
So both you guys, man. I mean, look. I mean, so we have one guy's a lawyer, right? So you spent $100,000 on your education, and you, Hans, I mean, the Harvard Biz School. So that all your friends had to be shaking their heads, going, "Why in the world you went to the top school, Harvard and business school?" To get into that's the highest bar, right? In terms of a barrier, there's other than maybe Stanford, that's the giant biggest barrier to entry there is, Harvard Business School. And then you get into an industry that has the lowest barrier to entry. What exactly was your keen insight that made you or encouraged you to make the move?
Well, at the time, I think, Stephen said, and I think the face of real estate is ever changing, and at the time I think the market was really dominated by a lot of second career or late career or part-time folks who were very, very, can be very, very sharp, very, very kind and good folks, but really didn't have a lot of business training or experience. And the keen insight was, people go through life and they have financial advisors, they have family attorneys, they have estate planners, they have family doctors. Our insight was that we wanted to approach this business as a real estate advisors, and we tried to be absolutely maniacally on point and careful that we always take the long view and protect our clients' interests in this process. And that was the insight. I wish it was more shockingly brilliant than that, but that's always been our approach and always been our philosophy, and that's what has stead us very well over the years.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. And that topic comes up a lot. I want to dig into that. So again, let me pose the same kind of scenario for you, Steve. Again, you spent $100,000. Where'd you go to law school? Anywhere significant?
I went to Vanderbilt Law School in Nashville.
Okay. So
it's a top law school.
Of course. So again, two very, very smart guys. You had to be smart to get in there. What did your colleagues think of this?
Well, I was an attorney, so if you ever spent any time with a bunch of attorneys, they're always talking about what they're going to do in their next life. So when I went around telling everyone that I was making a career change, I had a lot of people curious and also supporting me because lawyers typically or very often do want to get over to the business side, as did I. The path from lawyer to real estate agent is not one that had been well traveled, and so I had a lot of people sort of curiously watching to see if you could do it. And like I said, I had a lot of support, and through that support, people knew that I could handle very complex negotiations and contract drafting. They knew that they could rely on me to help them with a purchase of a home. Because that's frankly, even though that's a hugely significant deal, it's far easier to do help someone from a legal standpoint on the sale of a home than it is on the real estate side than it is on a commercial transaction.
Right. Okay. So in your
Stephen has a very, very funny story. He was very blessed, but his first transaction was a colleague of his that had started or was one early founders of a tech company, and ended up buying. His first deal was over a $2 million property here in the Washington area, and his friend asked him, "So Steve, is this the biggest deal you've ever done?" And Stephen, without losing a beat, said, "Actually, it's the smallest deal I've ever done, having done $100 million plus deals the last 5 years in corporate real estate and corporate law." So
how funny!
Very fun.
Yeah. So did you guys, when you were starting your company? I had Hans. Sorry. Okay, my brother went to Stanford Business School, and what I know about Stanford is it's all about the network, right? It's all about that network. And I know a bunch of people who went to Harvard Business School because I was in the tech world back in the late 90s. And, again, all about the network. I have to assume also for you, Steve, right? Both you guys came into this business with a very strong network. Was that a key differentiator or was that key in getting your business off the ground? Hans, you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like anyone. It's okay where you go to school. It's your schools. It's your previous jobs. It's other organizations you're involved with, and kids' schools. All that plays into it.
And was that part of your early marketing? Was like, hey, we are advisors, and by the way, like I'm the business guy, and my brother's the legal guy, so you can't. Was that your USP early on?
The answer is probably yes. I think one of the things that really helped us early on is we came up with a very fun and sort of playful marketing campaign that certainly played off our pedigree, but it was in a very sort of self-deprecating way where we sort of played off the fact that we were brothers and competitive, but do things a little bit differently. But definitely our backgrounds and experiences in schools were sort of woven into that ad campaign.
Well, and again, it kind of. I just looked you guys up. It kind of even still seems like that's. I'm looking at, if I go on your website, and for everybody, if you want to look at it, it's WydlerBrothers.com, WYDLER. Properties about us, advice, right? Advice. That's the first time I've seen that link on a realtor's website. And news. I should look at that while you're talking. So help me understand really quickly. That tech guy was doing a $2 million deal, and this is for you, Steve. And he said, "Is this the biggest deal?" And you said, "No, it's the smallest one." Help me understand how you were doing writing $100 million deals before that.
Yeah, well, I was working for a tech company. I was working for America Online in the late '90s, early 2000s, and so I was part of their network group, and those are the type of deals I did. I did telecom purchases for AOL back in the day when it was a bundled service. And so my friend who entrusted me with his house purchase, he knew I could handle it. He had total faith in me, and I guess he took a little leap of faith, but he's still a friend, and we talk real estate all the time.
So why didn't, back in the night, so you were early in the internet. Do you ever have any regret that you didn't, that you didn't try to, be Chris Sacca at Google? Because it sounds like were doing it. Do you know who Chris Sacca is?
No.
Okay. Just became $1 billion guy. But he did something similar for Google, going out and buying big data warehouses. But do you have any either one of you, any regret that you didn't pursue the internet and all the wealth that you could have gotten back then?
Well, we're in a dangerous business where. Go ahead, Hans.
Well, it's funny. I was doing internet-related stuff very early on. I graduated HBS in '93, and I was doing interactive stuff all the way back then, and did 3 internet startups in the late '90s. And it's very, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've always been attracted to that side of the world. But I tell you, it's a very hard way to make a living, and there are a lot of successes, like obviously Google is one of them. But for every Google, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of failed companies. And what I realized back in the '90s, late '90s, is I wanted to build a business that could grow and sustain over decades. I didn't need to keep swinging for the fences and hope for that that 1 in 100. Hit and make my livelihood that way, and I gotta tell you, I've never looked back. This has been a wonderful experience. We are very much part of our communities and our leaders in our community, and are making a difference, and with our friends and friends of friends, and it's a very rewarding path. When I see some of my former classmates sell out business for 100 times revenues, do I say, "Oh, I wish someone would pay me 100 times revenue"? Sure, I have those moments of but I quickly realized that for every one of those, there's lots of others that didn't work out that way, and so no regrets.
Yeah. What about you, Steve?
I was going to say, this is a dangerous business because we see a lot of that type of wealth. We also, we sit at a lot of people's kitchen tables and living rooms, and we also hear the heartache stories too. And we're in a really incredible position of trust, and the stories are like I said, the 1 in 1,000 story is great, but we do feel like we're making a difference. I used to joke that, or I still joke that back when I was a lawyer and I did a deal, I might get a good job email from Steve Case, but now when I do a good job for someone, I get a hug, and we make friends. Clients become our friends, and it's a little bit corny, but it's a very rewarding business that we're in.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, and the other thing is even if you are one of the 1 in 1,000 that make it, you could be, you go and raise money, and the VC says, hey, Hans, you know what, man, you were a great startup CEO, but now that we have a team of 50, you're not the right guy, and literally the board can take you out. So yeah, I think you guys made the right decision. And the other thing, too, and I'd love to get both your guys' view on this, the one magical thing about real estate is that from a risk-reward scenario, there's literally like no other industry where you can go into a deal, a builder, every other business, you have to buy tools, infrastructure, whatever. Not so with real estate. You go in, you do a transaction, and you get a piece of the pie. What's your take on the risk reward scenario for building a real estate company versus going and building something else?
Well, I mean, I haven't done 3 startups. I mean, one of the startups was I helped raise $20 million for that startup, and it's a completely different game. You have outside investors, you have multiple interests that you're competing with and managing. When I started in the real estate business, and it was me and a phone. And my relationships, and I made more income my first year as a realtor than I had working in these startups for 5, 6, 7 years on with the promise of founder stock and all that, and I owned 100% of the business. And when Steven joined me a year later, it's just us, and it's still we're still the owners of the business, and we have no outside investors, we have no debt. And it's our baby, and it's ours to grow and drive forward as best we see fit, and that's really, really nice. Without some of those other challenges that you have in those other businesses, like you mentioned, getting forced out, having to raise additional capital, and getting diluted,
right.
Having to move to different cities or towns because that's where the business takes you, and uprooting your family and pulling kids out of school, and there's all sorts of challenges in those other worlds.
So who's older?
That's a family.
Hans is older.
Okay, Hans is older by how much?
2 years.
2 years. Now, are you so early on? You're 2 years older. Me and my brother are I think 18 months, so kind of the same. Or very similar. So growing up, I was always bigger, stronger, faster than he was, and a lot of that older brother dynamic, right? We always competed, and a lot of that older brother dynamic still exists today. I'm 45; it still exists today. Talk to me about that, because I've never had a brother team on this show. I've had many husband and wife teams, but never a brother. Talk to me about the dynamics of you guys working together. And if you could relate that to growing up.
Well, I think
No, let Steve take it because he's the young one.
So yeah, Hans and I are definitely brothers. Similarly, I was bigger, faster, stronger than Hans was once I got to about 13 years old. So ever since then, he didn't want to do any more physical competitions with me. And he said, and then as business owners, it's definitely a brother team. Like we do fight like we're brothers. We do have the benefit in that we work out of separate offices. For a small team, we actually cover a relatively big geographic region, and so Hans works out of the Maryland office, and I work out of the Virginia office. So that definitely keeps the peace to have we have the Potomac River between us. But I do think we also balance each other well. He's definitely the more of the big thinker, wants to do big strategic shifts all the time. I'm more of the lawyerly, more risk averse, wants to think things through, be a little bit slower moving. And at the end of the day, even though we can fight tooth and nail, there's that level of trust is always there. And I think we end up making better decisions by, working them out. And, even though some of them can be heated battles, the balance is there, and it helps our business in the long run.
Is there in terms of division? Sorry, Hans, go ahead.
I was going to say I had a really interesting conversation with one of our colleagues in the local market, who's a friend, but also at another company, and he was asking the same question that you were just asking. And I said, at the end of the day, my brother and I do fight. We have our challenges. At the end of the day, I love and trust him. And he looked at me and he said, "You have no idea what a gift it is to trust your business partner." And I never forgot that. Steve and I, we have our differences, but there's never a question of that, and we do take it for granted sometimes. But it's really nice. It's really nice to have that relationship and have a colleague that you trust implicitly.
This is being recorded, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be able to play that back.
Yeah, it's going to be live, and it's going to be around the world. So, but help me.
I trust you. I don't say I agree with you.
Well, and there you go. So, but explain that trust, because there's trust in the sense that Steve's not going to rip you off, but what about the trust of and I guess this comes back to division of labor. Does Steve trust you when you make a business decision because of your business background? And that's not even accurate, because you guys have been doing it for so long. But unpack that notion of trust a little bit more, Hans, please.
Well, obviously there's that. There's financial trust, about worried about someone not being straight with you or taking advantage of a situation. But there's also the trust that, if I ever refer someone to Steven, implicitly know that they're going to be handled with the utmost of professionalism and integrity in the business, and hopefully vice versa. Steven, we would just never do anything. We would never do anything to harm the business, or harm each other's interests in any way.
Okay.
So
is there? I'm sorry, Hans. Go ahead.
That's it.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, is there? Do you guys? Is there like a Hans? Are you the quote unquote CEO and Steve is the operations guy, or do you divide labor in that regard in any way at all?
We haven't, and I think Steven alluded to it before. We basically have two profit centers, and we are each manage our own profit centers. And frankly, I think that's been a lot of our success in keeping the peace. Is that there's certain things that we share expenses, strategy, marketing, and things like that. But a lot of our businesses and the day-to-day stuff are driven at the profit center level, so that I don't have to seek Steven's okay if
right.
need to bring on a new person or invest in some capital expenditures, and vice versa.
Okay. All right. So let's get into the business.
I tell you, what is the most important thing is it has to be clear and in writing. And Steven and I spent in two rounds, once we started and once about 3 years ago, spent hours and hours and hours and hours, if not weeks and months, hammering out an operating agreement and really spelling out who does what, and also dealing with things like what happens if one of us is incapacitated or God forbid hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Those are all important conversations that people often don't have, and that we have had, and they're hard. They bring up tough issues sometimes.
That is phenomenal advice. That is, I see it so many times where people get into business with their friends. And I'll tell you just a very brief story about me. Man, I was driving my car one day, and I was with my dad, and he said, "Hey, I'll buy this it was a fixer. I'll buy this fixer if you let me live in one of your other houses till I die. And I'm driving, right? So I'm in my Porsche. We're actually zipping up in the mountains. And I said, yeah, sure, no problems. Now, guess what? Like, he's living in one of my houses, and I've completely developed that other house. It's still in his name. And now we've had like a little bit of a falling out over this weird issue. And I'm stuck, dude. I'm stuck. I might need your legal advice later, Steve. But anyhow, sorry. I shouldn't bring up my personal stuff.
And honestly, it's easy. It's easy when it's hypothetical, right? It gets really tricky when there's real money involved. It's like the lottery ticket. Like, oh, if we win the lottery ticket, I'll split it with you. And then someone wins the lottery, and all of a sudden there's a huge fight. Like,
right.
It's a much easier conversation when it's all in the future and hypothetical.
Absolutely,
but you got to have it, and you got to get it right.
Yeah, that is one thing that everybody listening to this can, don't, if you get into business with your best friend or whatever, like, have it, everything should be in writing. Great advice. So let's get into the business. Let's get into, how you're doing $221 million. And Steve, I'll let you take this one. What's working for you guys right now? Steve? Hans?
Well, it sounds like we may have lost him.
Yeah, we might have lost him.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hold on. I can hear you. Go ahead. Maybe you can answer that. Oh, he shows that he's still here. That's weird. I'll text him, see if I can get it.
Okay. What's working?
Yeah.
So our business is evolving as we grow. For a long time, Steve and I were the primary rainmakers on the team, and we had probably more of a traditional team model. And I think we're really evolving into more of a boutique brokerage where, we're very good at generating business, and what we're doing is helping our colleagues, take that model and develop their own books of business, and it's been great. I mean, we've been, even though our baseline is getting bigger, we've been growing at over 30% a year for 5-6 years in a row now, and so we're very pleased with that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's an incredible, up and to the right hockey stick graph. But so, I mean, maybe again, unpack it a little more granularly. What's been the secret sauce to get that growth?
Well, I think you started with relationships. This is, at the end of the day, at least the way we approach it is that it's a relationship business. And you've ever heard the comparison between a transactional business and a relational business. We very, very much want to be squarely in the relationship business. We take the long view. We built our business trying to service a client over their life cycle. So in our DC market, that means helping first-time home buyers, which are typically young professionals buying 1 or 2 bedroom condos. We try to help them when their families start forming and people getting married, starting to have children and buy their first, the first home, the move-up home, then relate that as they move from their initial home purchase to their forever home, which can be in this market quite substantial. And then at the back end, when they're empty nesters and downsizing back into often the urban market and buying a condo here in DC and maybe a vacation home somewhere else.
You've reached Steve Wydler with the
Hans.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. I was calling Steve. So okay.
Oh, no problem.
That's could you hear that ring or just could I hear it?
Yeah, I did. I heard it sounds like you were calling him.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, he didn't answer, so I don't know what happened to him. So okay, that makes sense. Maybe help us understand when you say there's a relationship biz versus a transactional biz. Somebody that may be a new concept for people. What can you explain that for people who have not kind of looked at it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. There's been a couple of transactions in our local market recently. There are upper bracket transactions where a buyer bought a home for close to $5 million and never moved into the home. Realized that the home was too small for them and put it back on the market 3 or 4 months later. As a real estate, the way we approach this business, I would look at that as an absolute epic fail on if that were our client on our ability to advise that client.
Yeah.
Like we really, just just bad, and it's bad advice, it's bad strategy, and I don't know, in their defense, I don't know what conversations they had, I don't know what the backstory was, but I certainly would never want an article like that about one of our clients. When we work with buyers, we spend as much time just challenging our buyers' thinking. You make a mistake in real estate on the buy side, and it's that kind of thing where they buy something, it works for them at a particular moment in time, like almost like a balance sheet, instead of really thinking through how this home will evolve with them over time and as their family needs change. And we help them think through those things, because it's easy for us as we see it all the time and see different families in different points of life. But if you're 27 years old buying your first place and you have no kids, maybe that 2-story walk-up is such a good idea when you have a kid on the way. Those are the kinds of things we like to try to help people think through.
Hello,
Steve, we got you back, man. You
Sorry, I was muted. I don't know what happened. I could hear you guys, and the tech gods didn't want me to participate.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, that's fine. He was just Hans was just explaining to us the difference between a relationship business and versus a transactional business. Now, one thing that you just said, Hans, and since Steve was out, I'll let him kind of take over the reins here. But lots of times, if you're working with a buyer, right, they may not actually know what they want, right, or because they don't know what's available, they don't know their options. Now, what you said, Hans, you said we challenge their thinking to make sure that you guys put them in the right property. And Steve, maybe you can take over from here. How do you when a buyer comes to you and says, "I want a $2 million house, $3-4 million, $5, whatever"? How do you challenge their thinking to make sure that you're placing them in the right property?
Well, people, one of the most common questions we ask is this a good time to buy or sell? And the way we reframe that question for our clients is rather than trying to time the market, which is sort of a fool's errand, we help our clients to make more bigger term evaluations of their lifestyle. So, I can tell you with near 100% confidence that prices in our area are going to appreciate over time. Now, what I can't tell you are where the peaks and valleys are along the way. And so the real answer to the question is the longer a buyer can anticipate living in the property they want to buy, the safer of an investment it is. So a 20-year home is better than a 15-year home. A 15-year home is better than a 10-year home, and all the way down the line. So we try to help our buyer clients really think through not how they want, they need a home today, but how their lifestyle needs will change over time, and challenge them. Say, okay, well, you want to buy this big home, but your kids are 13 and 15. They're going to be going off to college in 3 or 4 years. Are you going to still want this home, in 4 or 5 years? And does it make sense for that short of time to buy such a big, expensive home? And that's, frankly, a conversation most realtors don't have with their clients.
Right. Now, again, you guys position yourselves or view yourselves as advisors. Have you, much like a financial advisor, rolls you through a book and helps you, not only just tells you about financial health or wealth through timeline, right? They show you. Have you guys developed any kind of pamphlets to again, along the lines of a financial advisor to help people work through these kinds of issues?
I would say we've done better than that. Hans and I actually authored a book a couple of years ago called Inside the Cell. And it was written about 10 years after Hans and I had been practicing real estate, and it really is sort of an inside tell-all about the business and things consumers should really be aware of when they're working with an agent, because like in any business, there's a lot of things that go on behind the curtain that are not obvious to the consumer marketplace. And frankly speaking, there's a lot of opportunities in our business for conflicts of interest. And, if those conflicts of interest remain undisclosed, which they do in many cases, the consumer is going to, pay in one form or another.
So you guys do an inside baseball on real estate?
Correct.
Yes, and that's actually one of our one of our client giveaways to, when we meet clients for the first time. So we want them to, we want to level the playing field so they understand, where those conflicts are in our business.
Got it. And in that, do you have a chapter of literally like scripted questions? Like these are the questions you need to ask your real estate agent?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. When you, and this is for me, this is a self-interested question. So I'm almost finished with a book on doing radio for real estate agents. Now, here's what I'm hoping to accomplish with that, right? Is, when I go to somebody like you or somebody else and go, listen, we as a radio advertising company can help you. I want to be the guy that literally wrote the book, right? So here's my book. How did this help your business? When you started to go to listing appointments and you take the book, you go, hey guys, thanks for, meeting me. Here's our book. I want to give you, here's your personalized, and signed copy. Did that do anything for your business?
Absolutely. It's actually been one of our best marketing tools to date. And when Hans and I wrote it, we were probably a little bit nervous how the real estate community would react to it, because we did, disclose a lot of things that, frankly, realtors don't like to talk about in the open, in an open forum. And to our great surprise and relief, we've actually gotten great reception from the realtor community, because they said that, I totally agree with this. I'm so glad you said this, and I was very pleased and encouraged to hear that our fellow realtors felt sort of the same way, for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, can you give us a quick example of one of those things that you were nervous about, and then the community, really rallied behind you?
There's practices in our business that. Hans, do you want to take this?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's just certain things that everything is contextual, and in the right circumstances, for example, private exclusive, where a broker will take a listing and not market it. We have in our market anyway, we have a very, very strong centralized multiple listing service, and some brokers in our market make a practice of, before they put it in the MLS, they try to market it privately within their own brokerage, and it can, again, in the right circumstances, if a family is particularly interested in privacy or the inconvenience of publicly marketing a home, then that may make be the right decision for them. But it can also be highly abused by the brokerage, because it essentially gives that brokerage the chance to double dip, to represent both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction, and that can cost the seller in our market tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's just supply and demand. If you diminish the potential demand for the home, it's going to affect the sales price. Mm-hmm. And if you go down that path, you have to have a very informed, intelligent conversation with the sellers, in our opinion, so they know potentially how much money they're leaving on the table. And we've been on the opposite sides of those conversations, where we got wind of a private exclusive. We wanted to show the private exclusive, and by the time we we're getting runarounds and not being able to show it in a timely fashion. And then by the time we're like, oh, I'm sorry, dear, we just got 2 offers from our office and sold it this afternoon. Well, the seller never knew that there was a third buyer in the marketplace, and they had no idea whether our third buyer was going to pay more for their home than the 2 that were on the table. And frankly, if we heard about it by happenstance, and there were probably half a dozen other buyers out there, because the agents had underpriced the home. So there's just fraught with pitfalls like that if people aren't careful. And sometimes it's not done even maliciously or malevolently, but it just, as good as we are, no agent knows what a home is ultimately going to sell for, and you got to market it as broadly and aggressively as you can to maximize getting the fair market price for that home, the best price for that home. I
agreed. So speaking of that, right? So you found out about this house serendipitously, and I have to, at some level, you found out about this property through relationships. Now, here's what I want to ask you guys. At your level, how do you go about building relationships with other brokers, with other agents, in order to get this inside information? Or do you?
Honestly, we try to treat people with kindness and grace. We really go out of our way to be very fair with folks, and it doesn't mean we, like lawyers, and you don't always agree with them, and you have to represent your client's interests with the utmost of care and professionalism. But it doesn't mean you have to be a jackass when you're talking to the other party. And I think we have Stephen and I and everyone on our team tries to treat everyone respectfully and carefully. And that over time, we've built relationships with these folks, and they trust us, and vice versa.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. And I think the vibe that I'm getting from both you guys, right? As an attorney, right, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your client, right? To always be honest. And I think from both, just the vibe I get from both you guys is that you guys are, super honest, super ethical, super a high level of integrity. And I'm sure that, when people meet you, that comes off, and that I'm sure that helps your brand. And maybe that's one of the pillars that your brand is built on. When for you, Steve, your brother.
So.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Hans.
No, we hope so. I mean,
yeah.
That's definitely cared immensely about.
So, Steve, your brother just said that you guys, nobody knows what a house is going to sell for unless and until it's marketed aggressively. So I assume that you guys take this aggressive marketing stance. How, if you go to your site, there's very expensive homes on and unfortunately we're running out of time, and I'm so bummed because there's so much other stuff I want to talk to you guys about. But really quickly, 2 minutes or so, Steve, if you can, how do you guys think about marketing a property aggressively? What does that look like?
Well, the way we think about it is we don't know who's going to buy a particular home, but we do know buyers who are looking to buy a home will be looking. And so what we try to do, our whole basis for our marketing strategy is to hit each of those areas of marketing channel, and we try to market into that channel as powerfully and professionally as possible. And, there's other things you can do in the process, like, make sure you have, the property is presented in an attractive way that appeals to the buyer community. There's the positioning of the property to make sure you have good photos and written description. And if you do everything right, ultimately, the last piece of the puzzle is the price, and you obviously have to spend a lot of time making sure that you know the market and you price the property correctly to maximize your chances of getting the best outcome.
Okay, and again, so you guys are at the upper end. You're at the luxury level.
Well, we like to say we provide a first class service to all our clients, but we sell everything from one bedrooms or studio condos all the way up to multi-million-dollar estate. So we really do cover the entire spectrum of our local market in terms of price.
Yeah, that's interesting that you guys wouldn't have niched up and just said, and really focused on the, $2 to $5 million market. Why haven't you?
Well, DC is a very transient community, and our probably our second year in the business, we got a referral from a first time home buyer who bought a $300,000 condo. And it turned out that referral ended up buying a $4+ million estate in McLean, Virginia. And this business is, you just never know. Today's first-time home buyer could be next year's multi-million-dollar buyer.
Right.
And we want to build those relationships over a lifetime. So our folks, we're getting in a situation now. We've been doing this long enough where our clients' kids are coming to us and buying their first-time home. And we have folks in our business. On our team that are in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, and we try to speak intelligently and with expertise in each one of those submarkets. And because we work as a team, we can bring that sort of in-depth knowledge to each segment of that that sort of customer life cycle in the different sort of submarkets around town here.
Okay. Does
that make sense? I mean,
yeah.
if you just did the upper brackets, you would miss you'd miss the biggest part of our market is not to $2-3 million plus homes. The average price points in the probably $600,000-700,000 price range, and it's a pyramid with a very, very fat base. And from a business perspective, we want to be able to service that entire up and down that pyramid.
Right. Okay. That makes sense for your market for sure. Okay. For both of you guys. Okay. And Steve, you can go first. What do you know now? Right after you were trained as an attorney, now you sell real estate. You guys have had phenomenal success. What do you know now, Steve, that you wish you would have known when you started?
Great question. I would say, I underestimated, the impact, the level of emotion involved in a real estate transaction. I was a commercial deal guy, so I did a lot of high pressure, high dollar value deals. But they were all business people, and it was a very, it was rational thinking. In our business, you deal with emotions, you deal with complex family relationships, you deal with personal financial issues. And one thing I learned is, you can never predict rational responses or behaviors from either side. People do things, and it actually might be a rational response, but externally it doesn't make sense, and you just don't find out what's really going on. You don't get the full story, and so it adds a little extra drama to our business. And I wish I could say this. I wish I had taken a little more psychology courses in college so I could understand how the human brain works.
And right? It is there is a lot of emotion in buying your primary home. And again, this is a consumer. It's obviously a consumer facing business. What, if any, when you have a client that's going to buy or sell his $5 million house? Okay, and this may apply to all your clients, but do you put any limits on your time availability? Do you go, hey, listen, I'm not going to answer your phone, just so you know, I don't work weekends and I don't answer my phone after 6, or do you, I think a lot of people struggle with that. Do you put any limits on accessing you with your clients?
Well, I think, Hans and I and our team do strive to have a balance. I don't think, I'll speak for myself. I don't sort of give blackout times when a client cannot connect with me. We do have a team and support so that if there's something that I'm doing, whether it's another client or a personal family matter, I have people who are there to step in and respond to our clients' needs. But we find that people are respectful. Like, if I tell someone, hey, I'm going to go to my daughter's play, they might put a value on that. Say, oh, wow, he cares more about his family than he does about me. But if I say, hey, I have an appointment then, can we meet, and give them another time to meet, I found that no one even blinks an eye at that. We're all busy. We all have schedules to work around. But yeah, we do try to be as 24/7 as possible, while still trying to maintain the balance, which frankly is the if you can do that, then you're successful in this business.
Right. And look, I agree. I was just going to say
the best advice is setting expectations.
Yeah.
If you tell folks, like, look, for scheduling and some of these matters, talk to this person. For photography and blah blah blah, talk to this person. That takes a lot of the burden off of you right out of the gate. And so you avoid a lot of the sort of time-consuming questions that other people can help you out with.
I agree. That's good. And just commenting on what you said, Steve, I think that I think that's a great line to say, hey, listen, I do have an appointment at that time, and how about this other alternate time? And it does. They don't need to know whether that appointment is with your daughter, with you at her play, or that appointment is with your your wife, and you want to have lunch with her. So I think that's great advice. We have to start wrapping up, and I wish we had more time. I'll ask you this, Hans. Who has been a mentor to you?
Who has been a mentor to me?
Who has been a mentor to you, either personal growth or professional growth?
You know, I've been working with a couple coaches at through Brian Buffini over the last 5-10 years, and I've found them to be wonderful business partners. And I think coach is a bad word. I actually think of them more as sort of my personal board of directors.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know, like we try to do to our clients, they help us. They challenge our thinking. There's someone that's impartial that we can bounce ideas off of, deal with difficult business issues that come up from time to time. And you know, they've been great, but you know, you don't have to go through a professional organization like that. It's just you got to find someone in your life that you can have those kinds of in-depth conversations with and feel comfortable doing it.
But Hans and or Steve, you guys are fantastically. Both you guys are very smart guys. Clearly, you guys have had tons of success. How in the world do you justify paying? Because you're not working with Brian Buffini, you're working with somebody there. Those guys do not have your education. They're not as smart as you, most likely. They don't, and they haven't built this empire that you guys have built. How are you? I mean, it takes humility to be able to take advice. Why do you take their advice? And not even that, you pay them to give you that advice. Is that hard? I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. Why do you have a coach?
Honestly, I think, you know, they're very, first of all, they're very, very bright, and profound. If you ever stop learning in this business, you're dead. Like, you know, we can learn from anyone, and we always try to listen and watch and observe. But you know, these guys are, you know, as you said, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of teams out there that are, you know, we meet them. We did 260 transactions last year. There are folks out there doing 300, 400, 500, 1,000, 1,600 transactions. And if you don't think we can learn from those folks, I mean, the systems they have in place, the operation challenges they have, the managing that many relationships, it's mind-boggling. And when we go, you know, a couple of trade shows a year, it's just fascinating to listen to these people and how they've built their businesses. You know, we're lucky because we happen to live in a relatively expensive area, but those folks have built incredible businesses. And so and these coaches, you know, talk to these people and they manage these people and they have insights into how they set up their business. And it's been wonderful. It's been a great partnership.
Well, you guys, I mean,
and I would just add to that the one thing that is really hard for any agent or team is you know, you're sort of operating in a silo, and there's no great roadmap for how this should be done. And so what a good coach and mentor can do is they can give you benchmarking, and not necessarily like this is how you should do it, but here's how other teams that do this level of volume can, you know, handle this type of deal.
Okay. And by the way, you guys should start listening to my show, man, because that's all those, you know, 1,200 deals. I mean, 1,800 deals. All those. That's what, you know. I've spent all last year getting those people on and dissecting what they're doing, just similar to what we're doing here. So you should tune in. It's free. Okay, listen. I always ask for a book recommendation, so I want one from each of you guys. So here's the setup, and it doesn't have to be, the book does not have to be about real estate. Just something that you think would be helpful. I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book should I go buy today? Steve.
Well, I'd say there's two. I think the Gary Keller's The $1 Million Real Estate Agent was a great book for me to read early in my business because it gave me the long view before I started. And then a second book I read recently, which really I thought really helped. It's a great sales book. It's called The Go Giver.
Yeah, Bob Berg.
I apologize, I'm blanking on the author. But
Steve, it's Bob Berg. He's been on the show.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I thought that was a great book for anyone who does sales.
And I think his messaging very much is I can see how you would like that. It's very much in alignment with your philosophy. Hans, what about you?
It's a very simple book, but I think it's very poignant in a lot of ways. Is Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever read the book Mindset.
No. What is that?
Carol Dweck, Stanford PhD. It's called Mindset.
Okay.
And she basically, looks at the world through two lenses of people that have a growth mindset and people that have a fixed mindset, which is, basically, Michael Jordan's the growth mindset. Like, he wasn't the best high school player, but he kept working, getting better and better and better, and ultimately became the best basketball player. Versus, these high school phenomena that flame out because they get cocky and stop trying to get better.
Yeah.
And if you read those two books in combination, what you quickly realize is the Rich Dad Poor Dad. His poor dad had a fixed mindset, and his rich dad had a growth mindset. And it's really interesting, sort of philosophical approach to life, which is, I think, pays dividends over many years.
Got it. I love it. And listen, for everybody out there listening, go get Garrett Keller's, Millionaire. Everybody, if you're selling real estate, you should read MREA. You should read Bob Berg, The Go-Giver. You can buy his book, or you can listen to the episode here on this show. And then Mindset, Carol Dweck, The New Psychology of Success. Now, listen, if you guys want to get any, and this is for the audience, guys, you guys go get a free copy of any of those books. Just use our link. Go to audibletrial.com/superagentslive and get a free copy when you try out Audible. Guys, listen, this has been fantastic. I wish we had more time. You guys, I would love to maybe have you guys on again in a few months and pick your brain a little bit more on a specific topic. But I always encourage my audience, if they've gotten anything out of this, to reach out and to say thank you to you guys. So where can people find you?
Our website is WydlerBrothers.com, so it's WYDLER brothers, all spelled out, .com. And our emails are easy. It's our first name's Hans, Hans, at WydlerBrothers.com, or Steve at WydlerBrothers.com.
Yeah, and that's a hack, man. For every, all entrepreneurs, when they found their company, it's always first name at domain name dot whatever. I've gotten to so many people using that trick, right? Just, hey, I want to meet this guy, first name at domain name. Hey, guys, thanks. I'll kick off the thank you train. I appreciate it. I know you guys are busy. You guys have a thriving business. You're growing. I would have loved to dig into where you see yourself at in the next 5 years. But again, maybe that's round two. But thank you. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day.
Thanks very much. It's great.
All right. See you guys.
Take care. Bye.